neurosurgeon. And today I would like to talk about the interlaminar approach for disc herniations. I think we heard a lot of lectures about this, so there will be some repetition. But I think for better understanding, sometimes repetition is good. So we have a good nomenclature about the disc herniations. So we have different locations. We have the central, we have the subarticular or lateral, we have the foraminal and the extraforaminal, and also we have different types of migration. We have the cranial, the cauda migration, and the disc herniation, which is in the disc level. For the cranial migration, we have the problem with the exciting root when we are going transforaminal, and for the cauda migration, we have some problems with the pedicle. So there are some better approach with the interlaminar. So we have also this nomenclature for the different approaches, and I think it's good to have some terminology so we can use the same words for better understanding. Yeah? And we talk about the full endoscopic lumbar discectomy, and we talk about this interlaminar endoscopic lumbar approach. So you know this approach is just from dorsal. I think it's good because it's a short way from the skin to the lamina when you are going posterolateral or even farlateral, so it's longer way. You also need to be more experienced how to reach the foramen and so on. So I think the interlaminar approach is very simple. So especially when you are using already the microscopic interlaminar approach, so the same procedure, but you can do it with the endoscope. The limitation is for these located herniations. So it's similar like in the micro surgery. So just you have to expose the flavum, then you can drill on the flavum. Sometimes it's necessary, especially 5S1, you have a big interlaminar window, so you don't need to drill, but when you need, so you can do it. You can also use different rongeurs, and then you can use dissectors for to mobilize nerve roots and so on, and then you can just remove the disc herniation. So I started in 1998, so more than 25 years, and when we started, so we didn't have this new screens and 4K endoscopes, so we started just with BGA. So at the beginning is what's not so good like now with the very, very nice illumination and something like that. So that's me in the young years. When you use the interlaminar approach, so it depends what you want to do. So you can go through the shoulder, or you can also go through the axilla. So it depends how far is your exposure. So you have some more possibilities. But at least when you have only a circumscribed disc herniation, only a sequester, so you can use really a minimal invasive approach. So you just only need to do a cut into the flavum. You don't need to remove the whole flavum like you do it with the UBE. So you just perform only a cut, and then you can use the sleeve. And with the sleeve you can dilate this opening, then you can also protect the nerve root. You can remove the disc herniation, and then will be only the small cut in the flavum. So it's really very, very invasive. So the flavum will close, and you have no problems with post-ectomy syndrome or something like that. So this short video, so you can see this cut in the flavum. So we go paralateral as possible. Just don't do so much pressure to the nerve root. So you can see the nerve root here. So we will just mobilize the disc herniation, and then you can remove the disc herniation. You can see the nerve root. You can, with the sleeve, you can just also mobilize some fragments. So we use this for protection, but also for manipulations. You can use a hook to look around if there are some fragments. You can see, and So then when we go out, when we're finished, we have only the small incisions. There's still fat tissue, so only small cut in the flavum. So we can also remove big disc herniation through this small opening. And so the advantages are, so this limitation is for these subarticular disc herniations, but there are no limits in the size. So also these very, very big disc herniations can be removed through the small opening in the flavum. So we also heard the talk about the translaminar approach. So it's also possible, you know, you have many roads who lead to Roma. So there are also different opinions to do the same thing. Yes, but also disc herniation can be removed through a small cut in the flavum. And you have no problem with the ear crest. So when you are going transforminal, so sometimes you have really problem with the ear crest. So the limitations, yeah, the limitations depends also on the location of the disc herniation. So we cannot remove intraforaminal or extraforaminal disc herniations through the interlaminar approach. And also these medially located may be hard. It's sometimes possible when you go through the axilla, but sometimes it's also better to go with the far lateral approach, so you can just go below the posterior ligament and clean it, and so sometimes it's a better way to do it. So complications, I think complications not depend on the methods, just more on the localization of the disc herniation, the anatomy, patient's conditions, neurological status before the surgery. So I think it's not related to the kind of procedure. Also bleeding, neurological deficit, dural tear. Some people say that with the interlaminar approach you may have higher risk for the dural tear comparing to the transforaminal. But I did maybe many thousands surgeries with the interlaminar approach, and maybe I have only a few dural tears, and especially in decompressive surgery when you have very, very narrowing of the spinal canal and you have attachment of the flavum to the dura, so then you can also get the dural tear. But in the usual normal disc herniations, so no problem. No. And there are also some studies, some meta-analysis compared the transforaminal approach with the interlaminar approach, and they said that the results may be the same, but the fluoroscopy and operative time seems to be a little bit higher for this transforaminal approach. Therefore, they consequently promote the interlaminar approach for the L5S1 lateral disc herniations. So I finished. Thanks for the attention.